Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place.
Cool.
Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber, and we're going to show some love to the rhythm section today. We got Brian Allen with us. He's out of Columbus, Indiana, super smart guy and a very talented bass player. He started playing bass at age 11 and is won him several awards throughout high school, including the prestigious Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. After graduating, moved to Los Angeles to attend Musicians Institute, where he got his bachelor's degree in music, and he also won Outstanding Student of the Year. That's probably a pretty big thing.
It was cool, yeah. I mean, they give you a bass and everything.
Oh, do they really?
Well, they used to.
Tough times for Musician Institute. Since graduating, Brian's performed a diverse range of live shows as well as recording sessions. His playing spans the musical spectrum from jazz to rock and everything in between. Brian plays all types of basses, from a standard 4-string to a 6-string fretted and fretless, and he also plays upright bass and cello. I've seen some videos of you playing upright bass. That is like, what does that weigh?
It's not too bad, man. I honestly don't know what it weighs. I've never weighed it, but it's probably a good 20 pounds, maybe.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hollow, so,
Oh, it just looks so, it's big, man. It's like
huge, yeah. It's the bulk of it that's the pain in the butt, not necessarily the actual weight of it.
Yeah, I always see it's almost like having to carry your luggage in the airplane with you instead of putting it, checking it or something. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Some of the artists Brian's toured and recorded with, and I had to trim this down significantly: Jason Isbell, Robben Ford, Miranda Lambert, Zach Brown, Jamie Johnson, Shooter Jennings, Dolly Parton, Mary Chapin Carpenter, Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes, Secret Sisters, record on Motown and Universal, John Scofield, Natalie Cole, Minnie Driver, the Four Tops, and the Temptations. Brian was also on staff at Musicians Institute for 10 years, where he taught private lessons and live playing workshops covering all styles of music. He taught clinics and performance seminars in Japan and South Korea for Musicians Institute also. He's currently based in Nashville, Tennessee, and he keeps a busy schedule of recording and touring and putting on clinics. Man, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Man, of course. When did you move to Nashville?
Moved to Nashville in 2011. It's been 6 years now, and I always told everybody in Los Angeles I'm never moving to Nashville. And then, sure enough, the floodgate opened, and I saw the light, and it was like, oh well, I guess I should go to Nashville now. So, and I'm glad I did. It's been a good move. What
prompted it? Was there something specific, a particular gig, or?
Well, we had just done the Jamie Johnson record, and that did really well. The guitar player and drummer ended up going on tour with him, which is something I personally wasn't interested in at the time. But, now half of my LA crew has already moved out there. And then the producer that did the record, Dave Cobb, he decided to move out there. And just by chance, I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. I didn't have any more ties. The hardest thing was Venice Beach, because I love the beach. And
no beach in Nashville, huh?
Yeah, not so much. And I taught at Musicians Institute for 10 years already, and I was kind of like, well, it might be time for something different, and I wanted to get out of there before I got bitter and didn't want to teach anymore, because I really loved it. And it was just like all signs said go back east, so.
Sure.
Coming from Indiana, I was like, I didn't really want to get back into the Midwestern thing, but it's its own little world down here too. So,
and everybody's incredibly nice.
Really, they are. It's a different kind of thing than Los Angeles. Everybody meets you and they kind of just want to know who you are and basically what can you do for them. So there's always like this fake facade of niceness out there, and that kind of wears on you after a while. But coming here, it's like, oh, wow, hey, how's it going? We should jam sometime. And then, when that first happened, I was kind of hesitant, because in Los Angeles, that means I'm never going to talk to you again.
I hear you, man. I totally get that.
So, being here, I was kind of like, well, okay, sure, man. Yeah, let's get together. And then like a day or two later, I'll get a phone call. Hey, we're set up this jam session. And then that's kind of how my networking started in Nashville as well. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's interesting because Florida's like that. Like whenever someone says, hey, man, let's hook up, it's like, man, why don't you just tell me like have a nice life or something. Like, I don't, like, yeah, I don't get that, because I grew up in New York City, and New York City, if you're coming from the South, you may feel it has a lot of flaws, but one thing it doesn't have is it don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. If someone's going to say something, pretty much they're going to do it. And I've always felt that way about LA. I've been there just a couple of times, but it just seemed like, yeah, really kind of pretentious a little bit. Sorry, everybody in the West Coast. Don't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm sure you got big shoulders. Don't tell me you never heard it before.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I dig what you're saying, man. As a teacher there, did you feel a lot of pressure to, like, you had some monster players coming in underneath you. Did you always feel pressure to, like, make sure, man, I'm not letting these little kids show me up. Like, to always, like, be so on top of your game, technically playing proficiency wise?
Yeah. There was this group of Swedish students that would come through once a year, and I got the first batch of them that came through. And then after that, they just recommended that they study with me when the next cycle came around. And I think it was like the third or fourth cycle of these guys coming through, I mean, they were all really good players already, because it was part of their education there to come over to MI and just learn more about teaching and, and just overall music and all that. But, this one kid, everything I put in front of him, he just nailed it. And I'm like, oh man, what am I going to teach this kid? And he would just not just get through it. He would just destroy it, play it so good. And I was finally like, here, play this in 7/8, give him some odd meter. And he couldn't do it at all. And I was like, thank God.
I found something. Yeah. No, I can understand that, because I would imagine it's super competitive. You don't want to have that at the kids where he's nailing everything you're teaching him. He's like, what the hell is your function at that point otherwise? Because I would feel that way anyway.
Absolutely. And I feel like I was lucky in the sense of being a versatile bass player already. If there was something that they did really well, I could usually, like, pull to another genre of music and be like, here, try this. And it would be like a whole new thing to them, whether it was like a Latin thing or, teaching somebody how to play heavy metal, but, certain guys, like this particular guy, was just super well-rounded already. So it was just, I got lucky that he couldn't play odd meters very well.
Yeah,
so,
found his kryptonite.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know a kid in Nashville? His name is David Henriksen. He's from Sweden. He's relatively new guitar player.
I don't. I think I've heard his name being thrown around, though. I don't know him personally.
He's only been there 4 months, and he's already, I'm really happy for him, because he's played like 50 paid gigs, and he's traveled in 18 states already. I'm like, really, I interviewed him actually this morning, and I was like, I felt proud for him that he's a young kid, and I was like, man, you know what? People live here and don't take, you come here and you're hustling, and like you're getting it done,
That's it.
But what made me think of is what you said is not that he's from Sweden, but he taught there as well. And I got the feeling that being a music teacher there is like a kind of like, not necessarily prestigious, but it's a very serious, they take teachers there much more seriously than we do here. I think that's the impression.
I think so. Well, yeah. I think in any part of Scandinavia, whether it's there, Finland, Norway, teachers are in high regard, and they're, compensated. Yeah. Thusly as well. So it's, I think their overall outlook of education is very different than ours.
Yeah. Which sucks.
For us.
Yeah. You've worked with some great artists, Brian. And so I was wondering, maybe for each of the following, would you be able to tell me the backstory, how you got the gig? What kind of gig was it? Was it a touring position or studio? And what, if you had any kind of takeaways or lessons or just anything you got out of your experience in working with the artists, that would be interesting.
Sure.
So let's start with Robben Ford.
Yeah, the Robben Ford gig. It was one of those right place at the right time kind of gigs that came up. I had done a gig with the tour manager's nephew, who's a great singer. And his name's Casey Wasner. He's actually on the road with.
Wait a minute!
Right now.
He's on. I just spoke to him. Wow, this is like, it's so incestuous.
It's kind of gross.
Oh my God! I literally was on the phone with him yesterday. That is so wild. Okay, sorry.
So he's a talented dude, great guitar player, great singer, and, writes some cool songs. And so I'd done a gig with him, and his aunt was in the audience that night, and they're all riding horses the next day. And Robben calls him up and was just like, hey, I need a guy to play upright for this tour coming up, because the guy that had done the record ended up getting some other tour and couldn't continue on. So I get a text from Casey saying, hey, man, do you play upright bass? And I was like, yeah. He's like, are you good? And I was like, well, sure. Yeah, I can play it, He's like, well, Robben needs a guy in April. I'm like, sure, let's figure this out, So and really, the only communication with Robben was through email. He sent me the songs and the charts, and I had about a month to learn the material. And our first gig was in Rome, Italy, on like April 2nd, I believe.
Wow, that's miserable.
Yeah, it was pretty awful.
Wow.
But the thing is that I didn't meet Robben until we got there. So just like just on a whim, I talked to Robben once on the phone. And beyond that, that was it. It was just kind of like, okay, man, I'll see you in Italy, So, and at the time, I didn't really have an acoustic bass that I traveled with. I just had my Clevenger electric upright. So took that along, and yeah, we did a month in Europe, basically.
How many songs did you have to learn that month?
I'd say around 18.
Wow,
something like that.
That's a full plate.
Yeah, he had just done the Bringing It Back Home record, which is a really kind of a more mellow record. It was all upright bass. This guy Dave Pilch played on the record, and Harvey Mason was on the record, and Larry Goldings, and oh gosh, I forget the trombone player's name right now. But yeah, it was just that ensemble: guitar, bass, drums, trombone, and Robben singing, and organ. So it was more of just quote unquote the jazzy record, and so yeah, it was just all upright. And then when I got on tour, it was Ricky Peterson on organ, who's just a phenomenal organ player out of Minnesota, and he's actually out with Stevie Nicks right now.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, and then Tony Moore from LA was the drummer, and then Robben and myself, and yeah, we kind of all got together at soundcheck and went through like 2 songs, and Robben's like, okay, man, I'll see you at the gig, I'm like, okay. And he's like, oh yeah, we changed the key on this one song, and it happened to be the most difficult song to play because it was on upright.
Oh my.
And it's not really an upright song. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, let's do that. So, wow. And it was fine. I mean, it was all it went from being in the key of A, which was great on upright, to A flat, which was not great on upright. Yeah. So it's a terrible key, but kind of got me in shape for that real quick. So, but yeah, we did the first gig, it went great, and then the rest of the month, and just kept geting better. So,
and you like playing that kind? You like jazz, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I wouldn't call that a jazz gig per se, though. We're rocking out on some blues pretty hard too. That's Robben's main thing, is the blues side of it. Then there's a rock element and also a jazz element to his playing. But yeah, he's just, every night that guy would play something new that I've never heard before, with the confidence that he'd been playing it for 20, 30 years. It's just, that's the thing that always blows me away about Robben, is just every night there's something that blows me away in his playing, and I've been a fan forever. When I was a student at Musicians Institute, he did a gig with him and Vinny, and I think it was Jimmy Earl on bass. And I'm just like, good grief, just a kid that was just blown away by what I was seeing. And, come 20 years later, now I get to play with him finally, so it was a pretty amazing experience. And, it lasted over 4 years. I say lasted because we're kind of he's working with a different band right now. He just moved to Nashville, but I'm sure we'll do some stuff in the future, just no touring right now. So
sure. But I don't, what, the caliber of guys he had with him, though, it's not unusual. I'm really kind of, I guess, speaking to the listeners and looking for you to give me guidance on here, though. Based on what I understand and all the guys I've spoken to, the caliber of guys he had, that's not unusual to not have to meet somebody to rehearse 2 songs, because, you're all top-notch guys, and, the work ethic's there. And if you're tasked at learning 18 songs, you're going to know 18 songs when you get there. So it's not like, a bunch of young kids that like, oh, let's make sure you guys could handle it.
Absolutely. I mean, the only time we would get together is maybe pre-production for a record. We got to record 2 records with Robben, and that was great, and just a cool experience. And that was mostly just for working out arrangements. That way we could utilize the time in the studio better. But as far as the tour go, yeah, it was just like, here, learn these songs. And sometimes while we're on the tour as well, he'll be like, hey, check this song out. We'll try it tomorrow. So you just learn the song, and do it tomorrow. So, there's definitely when you get to that level too, and, it's flattering to be considered in that level of, players that just jump right in and do it. But that's what you do, it's part of the gig, because otherwise, there's no time for it. It's like, well, then you're not the guy.
Well, it's no different than flying a particular surgeon in who has an expertise in a certain type of, cancer removal or procedure. And he doesn't have to practice. He just comes in and does it and goes.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, pretty much. Minus the, possibility of killing somebody.
Yeah. Slight, a little bit of hiccup. Shooter Jennings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's actually the first guy that Dave Cobb really spent a lot of time kind of working with and getting his production chops together. And I worked with Shooter out here first. He lives in Los Angeles, and him and Dave had worked in Los Angeles before I'd kind of gotten with him. So, but the first thing we did, I believe, was a Southern Family compilation, which is something that Dave Cobb put together, and it's just a bunch of different artists doing one song on this CD. And then we actually just did Shooter's record this past year, and it came out great. And he's just he's more of a Southern rock kind of feel, and it's Waylon Jennings' son, so there's it's just in the genes that there's going to be some great musicality coming out. So he kind of flirted with the rock world for a minute, and I think now he's kind of getting back to where he knows that this is his roots, and we kind of made more of a traditional record in the sense of where he's coming from, his family and everything. So I think the record really, it suits him and his style really well. And just a really great guy to work with. Him and his wife were there the whole time, and it's just a great hang. That's one of the big things about the records we get to do, and is it's not so much just we're there to make a record. We're there to hang out with people and kind of cut loose and have some fun while we're there. It's like we've been known to have a drink or two before we get started. So
he had an album it was like Hierophant. You know what I'm talking about? It was. He had that one song on there. I loved it. All of this could have been yours. You know that song? Mm-hmm. Where he opens up with the really nice bluesy piano chords.
Yeah,
I probably played that song 100 times, man. I love that song. Yeah,
yeah. It's too bad too. A lot of people don't know who Shooter is. They know the last name Jennings, so they make that correlation. But as far as an artist, I hope this album kind of gets him more into the forefront, because he certainly deserves it.
Why is that? Is it like bad marketing, or he just hasn't? The same reason anybody just hasn't had something that really taken off.
I think that's it. He hasn't had the hit yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just until you do, it's like it's hard to get into that mainstream kind of focus. So it's we'll see. We did one song called "Do You Love Texas," and it was way before the hurricanes happened. And once they came out, it was like, oh well, here's a great way to make some money for Texas.
Yeah. And
so they put that out there as a fundraising song, and
that's cool.
He's had some good response to that. So
that's great.
Yeah, and just goes to show what a great person he is too. It's just like, here, take my first single. Like, I don't even know if that was going to be his single, but it's like, this needs to be put out there because we got to help Texas. So
that's really cool.
Yeah,
he played down here, but it was like in some small little club in Orlando. I wanted to go see him, but it was kind of like an hour and a half away, and it was kind of like a biker bar, to be honest with you. And I was like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was like, it's just, I was surprised.
Yeah, man.
So, Rich Robinson.
Yeah.
What a monster guitar player that dude is.
No doubt. Mr. Tone, the guy's just a wall of sound, and That's it's an interesting story with that one. It was when I first moved to town. I was supposed to go on tour with this band called Miss Willie Brown, and that tour got pulled about a week before I moved to Nashville.
So hold on a second. How did you feel? And I'm sorry I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to capture this. You're a teacher for 10 years. Now all of a sudden you got to hit the road. That's a big. And you weren't 21 years old. When all of a sudden you got to go on the road. What was, were you good? Were you good with that, or what? Do you have any hesitations, or like were you excited, or?
I'd done some travel already. When I was in Los Angeles, I toured with Sarah Bareilles before she got her record deal. So we were, on and off the road for like 4 years.
Okay.
And then I toured some with Minnie Driver as well, and Catherine McPhee as well. So, I'd done some road gigs, and those are all really good gigs to be out with. We weren't like slumming it in the
you're not the broken truck, the broken van that breaks down. Yeah,
exactly. You're not riding around in a Pinto hoping for the best. Know? So, those are usually fly dates or buses or so it was all good. But but yeah, moving to Nashville and with this band Miss Willie Brown, we'd done a few things. We were actually the first unsigned band to play Jimmy Kimmel and perform on that, and it was great. The song that they picked, and then once they got their record deal, it was terrible. They just had them write some really bad songs, and they just couldn't do what they wanted to do, which is more just aggressive, almost rock and roll country, But it was just unfortunate that the record label kind of made them go down a certain path that just kind of like basically made it fizzle,
That's terrible. Because you think these guys want to recoup. I mean, they have a financial vesting to allow them to make, to make money.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But for some reason, because this guy that wrote the song is a huge writer and produced huge records. And I was like, I can't believe he wrote this song. Like, I felt bad for them that they had to sing it, honestly, so, but, we'll leave names out and,
yeah.
But, it was unbelievable. And so we had to perform that on Jimmy Kimmel, and it was just like, oh,
did you wear out like a blindfold? Bass player unknown.
Yeah, it's like, could you pixelate my face?
Yeah, God.
But it was too bad. But anyway, and that was another reason moving out here. That band had moved out here as well, and I was kind of like their music director, and then became tour manager later, and all kinds of stuff. But but yeah, I moved out here in Nashville, and in the middle of summer, and because the tour got canceled, all my friends were either on the road or they'd gone to see family, and I'm like, eesh, and the session work didn't just start happening with Dave Cobb, so like 3 months in, Dave Cobb calls me up and is like, hey man, Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes is going to give you a call. I was like, okay, sure, like. I'll be waiting by the phone on that.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, man, like 10 minutes later, my phone rings and, I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, this is Rich Robinson. Dave gave me your number and I was wondering if you could do a 6-week tour. I was like, oh, well, sure, man, let's do that. I'm like, when? He's just like, I need you to leave in like 2 days.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, well, okay. Cause I did have a couple little gigs booked and, like honestly, I didn't want to do them because there were, I respect country music and the people that do it, but it's just not for me.
Sure.
I'd picked up a couple country gigs and I'm like, oh man, I just don't really want to do this. But, so this came along and I was like, okay, I got out of that. Cool.
That's great.
The crazy thing,
you got out of it to play with a really good, talented guy too. It's not like you got out of it to.
It wasn't just like,
you're playing with
you're like, sorry, man.
He's a bright musician. He's a very bright. He's a clever. He's a smart player. Intelligent.
Oh man, he wrote the guitar part for "She Talks to Angels" when he was 15. It's like,
wow.
It's like I had to learn 40 songs in 2 days.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's what I said because I went to go pick up the music at his management company, and I was like,
so it's not even 2 days; it's like a day and a half, and you got to sleep.
Well, that's optional.
Yeah. Holy crap.
So I freaked out for a second on my drive back home from the management company because they handed me like 4 CDs. And I'm like, And then there was a list of like cover songs too that he threw in there too. I was like, great, and like they weren't just like your typical, this song really well. It's some obscure Bob Dylan song that I've never heard.
It wasn't Freebird.
It definitely was not Freebird. So I was shitting myself a little bit, and then as soon as I got home, I just started diving into the songs, and I was like, okay. I just said, here's what I'm going to do for every song, and I kind of mapped out a course, and I was just going to work on each one 3 times, make a couple of notes about the song, and then move on. And then as I got like 3 or 4 songs in, I would go back and then run all those songs again. And then I'd keep going through another 3 or 4 and do that same process and go back and play them all, So it was like I kept rehashing the set every time I'd get through a few songs. And my gosh, it was a lot of work.
Did you chart all those songs?
Not really. I kind of made like I'd write next to the title what key the song was in, and whatever the bridge might be, like C, G, A, F, and just kind of made like little cheat sheet notes that way.
That's tough, man, because you don't even have enough. The problem is you don't even have time to know the song.
No way.
I mean, playing it's bad enough, but like you're not going to retain that melody.
No,
it's not possible.
It was kind of mental because when I was first listening to it on the way home, I was like, okay, well, it just sounds like Jamie Zeppelin. And I'm like, I could do Jamie Zeppelin. That's awesome. But the more I listen to it, I'm like, damn, this is very structured stuff. Like it goes here intentionally, so it's not just Jamie Zeppelin. It's like, oh shit, this has really been methodically put together.
Wow.
So that's the part that kind of like, that's when I knew I was in for like a deep ride for the next couple of days. So, I mean, the first night I stayed up until about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I had a roommate at the time, and she came in and was like, "What are you doing? Like, I can't even believe you're still practicing right now." I was like, "I can't either," and and then I slept for a couple hours, got back up around 6 or 7 that day, and then I had that whole day to work on stuff. And I think of that next night, and the next day I had to leave. So
holy crap. And so what was the net? So, I mean, but I would imagine he had realistic expectations though. I mean, unless you're like a mini dictator, I mean, it's not reasonable.
Luckily, man, we didn't go straight into gigs. We actually had a week, like 4 days of rehearsal.
Oh, thank goodness, man.
Yeah, for sure. But I wanted to be ready for rehearsal. I didn't want to be that guy that was like, oh man, I don't really know this one. So I got to New York, we rehearsed up in Woodstock.
Oh, that's cool. Did you go to Todd Rundgren's place up there? Bearsville?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Todd Rundgren's studio, man. It's pretty famous. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right. That was very cool. Just
that's
to hang
awesome.
out there for a week was great.
And Woodstock is a cool ass town, and it's upstate New York is just real pretty anyway. Beautiful.
And it was an amazing time of the year. It was fall.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Perfect weather. So yeah, man, the worst part was I just kind of wanted to sleep when I got off the plane.
I was thinking that. I was wondering, did you I would have been like knocked out on the plane. I never sleep, but I'm listening to it. I'm like, I would have slept on that plane ride, man.
Man, but I had a car service pick me up that Rich had set up for me. And, it was like a 2-hour drive to get out there. And this dude was just talking like instantly. And I'm not the kind of guy to go, hey man, I just need to sleep. Could you not talk? That makes me really awkward, to have to say it to somebody. Now I probably could say it to somebody, just because it's just like, I need to sleep, man, but yeah, didn't really get a chance to like hit the reset button at all. So, but we got there and like everybody's kind of set up, and I'm like, they got a microphone set up for me, and I'm like, that's not happening, like that's.
You're not going to sing bad enough. You got to play all these songs you don't even know, and you had 2 days to learn.
But the crazy thing is, man, we start playing, and like it all came back, like just poof. And he kind of we get done with a few songs, and he's like, I can't believe you know this music, and I'm like, I can't either, man. I'm really
that
glad
makes 2 of us.
Yeah, for sure. And he just kind of laughs, and he's just like, so what's your background? He was kind of like, well, this guy's a freak, and I'm like,
hey, that's good.
It's what I used to do though in college. When I was going to school, there were 13-hour days every day. I'd go to class, and then I'd go rehearse with the band, then I'd go practice, and just do that every day. So I can go back to that zone if I had to. You know, it's like I don't like to anymore. It's like I'm 40 now. I'm getting too lazy for that. But it's you know, it's one of those things where you got to crunch numbers or crunch time, and you know, just got to get the work done, get it done. You know.
Oh, for sure, man.
But yeah, I was actually impressed with that myself. You know,
hey man, it's nice if you impress yourself. That's a good thing once in a while. No, I mean it is a good, like, just in general, no matter what you do for a living, if you like, you know, if you're a type A personality, you don't usually give yourself a pat on the back because you're driven, so you're looking forward.
Yeah,
it's nice once in a while to say, man, you know, I feel good, you know, to be in the moment for yourself. You know, you can maybe be in the moment to appreciate something else in your life, but it's nice to like be in the moment for yourself. So it's good that you got to do that, man. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. You know, it just kind of gave me like half the time I do so many different gigs, I don't have time to learn the songs, so I read charts a lot, you know, on gigs. So that was nice to just have that to be like, okay, my memory still works, you know. So
how did the tour go?
The tour was fantastic. I mean, we did 6 weeks, you know, kind of all over the Northeast and Midwest. And and then I think I was with Rich for probably a total around 9 months.
That's great.
And you know, went to Europe a couple times, and we had a one-off gig in Spain one time. We literally flew to Spain for one show and flew right back. That was
that's nice.
That was an experience. But we got to open for Ozzy at that festival.
That's not necessarily a congruent music match. I wouldn't think Rich Robbins would be open for Ozzy Osbourne. That seems like. I mean, it's kind of like this kind of the same. A lot of the fans will be the same, but that's a weird.
Yeah,
that's a weird.
It's funny. Rich told me when the Crows came out, they had no idea how to market them, no clue whatsoever, because they were put on tour with Metallica and Guns N' Roses. They were the third band of that, you know. So it's like,
wow, that makes no sense.
That makes no sense whatsoever. So they've kind of always been, you know, in this weird nebulous area of, you know.
I don't know why they're just like a blues band. I mean, it's not like
well, you know,
Americana / blues band.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but yeah, they had no idea what to do with them at first. So, but hey, I'm not complaining. You know,
no.
For Ozzy, it was fantastic.
What was that like? Did you get to meet Ozzy?
Well, no. He his dressing room was right next to ours, but you know, he kind of just stayed hidden away. But his guitar player Zach Wilde came into our dressing room. My first thought was, please don't eat me.
Yeah, I know, the guy's massive, isn't he?
He's a mountain of a human being.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe how big this guy was.
Yeah,
but he's just really cool, really nice guy. He's just like, hey guys, what's going on? You know, it's like, hey, what's going on? So
that's funny.
It kind of threw me for a loop for a second because I just wanted to expect to turn around and see that guy in the dressing room with us. But yeah, super great guy, and you know, he was just like, well, I'm kind of pulling double duty because Tony Iommi was supposed to play guitar on that show, and he'd gotten sick, so he was actually not scheduled to play with Ozzy because he was playing with his own band.
Oh, I forgot the name of him. Black
Label Society.
Yeah.
And so he was getting done with that gig, and then he was going to go straight over to play with Ozzy. So
wow,
pretty crazy.
So was it like massive? Was it a big place? Because Ozzy usually plays massive arenas. Yeah,
it was a big outdoor festival up in the northern part of Spain. Gosh, I can't think of the name of the actual festival right now, but it was really cool experience though.
That's great.
Mars Volta was on that too, but they didn't play until 2 that night, and I had like a 6 a.m. flight the next day, so couldn't see them. But that's okay. Yeah,
they're an interesting band. I have like maybe one of their CDs. It's kind of cool stuff, but you got to have the headspace. You got to be into it for the, you know, it's not like casual listening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. John Scofield.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily like a gig or a tour or, you know, anything conventional. It was actually, he had done a clinic at Musicians Institute, and just that day somebody says, hey, John wants a band, and you know, you play bass with him. So I was like, well, let me think about that. Yes. And then they're like, well, he wants an upright bass player. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cause at that time, you know, I'm still kind of getting my chops together, and I wasn't nearly as confident on upright as I am now. You know, it was like, well, it's the best way to learn is just get thrown into the fire, you know, that sink or swim thing. So, just went down to sound check, and you know, he's like, let's just play some Roebuck tunes. I was like, okay, cool. So we did, and it was just one of the most fantastic experiences of my life, because he has he has so much conviction when he plays that all that out stuff he plays starts making sense, and it starts making you think that you're wrong.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Because you're like right there in the vortex with him, and so you're seeing what he's doing?
Yeah, you're hearing it, and it's just like, my gosh, this guy's he's from another planet. The stuff I'm hearing, like, I just, like I said, not being as confident on Upright 2, I was just like, am I playing the right part right now? Am I on the right place? Like, it was just starting to mess with my head. And then you kind of have to just stop that and just trust, go back to your training, your Jedi training. And,
yeah.
It's like, you're in the right place. Just let the music start, because you start getting heady about it, then it is over,
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those Zen moments. I was just like, okay, just stop thinking and, just enjoy this moment, because it's freaking ridiculous what's happening. So, and it was one of the coolest things, that I got to do while I was a teacher at MI, because, I mean, you don't just get to play with John Scofield every day and like really get to go down and, play some shit. It was great.
He did a record with,
solos.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. What was the last thing you said?
I was just saying, cause he tossed me solos on every song. So it was just
really,
like, oh yeah. It was like, we were a trio there for a while, it was like our little moment of being a little jazz trio,
But that says a lot about the guy, to be honest with you.
It does, yeah. It's like he's either just accommodating or he's digging what's going on, which is what I'd like to think it was.
I'm sure he was, but either way, how cool is that?
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, he had to be digging what was going on. He'd be accommodating for one song. You're not going to accommodate every song.
That's it.
He's throwing you a solo like that often. He's digging it, man. That's really cool.
So it was just, one of those one-in-a-lifetime experiences. And the reason I put it on my bio is because we did play together. You know what I mean? Like,
it's John fucking Scofield. Yeah, you did.
You know what I mean? It's just like, sometimes people, this is another good LA trait, is they'll audition for somebody and now they put that on their resume.
No, you're kidding me.
Oh, no.
That they played with someone because they had an audition?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'm going to go audition with something. If that's all it takes, shit.
So wow. I was honestly hesitant to even, put that one on there. But I'm like, you know what, man? He's one of my heroes, and I got to play with the guy.
If he's throwing you solos, I'd say that's like you pass. The criteria is, that's great, man. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
He did a record with, I'm a big Warren Haynes fan, and he did a record with Government Mule, and it's brilliant, man. I love it. It just double CD.
He's done so many great things. Like, probably one of my favorite records is a Go-Go, the thing he did with Medeski, Martin and Wood.
Yeah.
And that record, I just thought it was just a cool vibe record, and just some amazing playing. And the songs weren't like crazy hard or anything, but it's just the vibe they created with that record is just really hip.
I'm going to write that down because I'm going to check that out. It's called A Go-Go?
Yeah.
I got to check that out.
Because I'm a big fan of Medeski, Martin and Wood as well. And, he played with those guys for they had a pretty good stint there for a minute, playing quite a bit together. But
I'm going to check that out for sure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And then Minnie Driver, I briefly talked to you about this, I think the very first time we talked, which is quite a while ago now, I think. But so Minnie Driver, the actress, she has a music gig.
Uh-huh.
So
she had a record deal when she was 18, living in London.
Wow.
And for whatever various reasons that fell apart and whatever, and then she got into acting, and obviously that's paying the bills.
Yeah.
But when I first got I was playing a gig at this place called a Hotel Cafe in L.A. It's kind of like the singer-songwriter mecca there. And I just played a gig, and this guy comes up to me and it's like, "Hey man, do you play cello as well?" And I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Well, I'm the music director for Minnie Driver, and we have a tour coming up." I was like, "Okay, let's check it out." And I was a little skeptical because I certainly knew of her as an actress, but I got the CD and I was like, "Wow, she's got a really great voice," and she writes cool songs, and It was actually a really cool experience. My first gig with her was on Jay Leno, actually.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And it was the first TV show I'd ever done as well. So it was kind of like a twofer there, you know. It was like, well, that's
nice.
one way to get thrown into a gig, you know. And actually, I got to say, besides my very first gig ever, that was the only other time I've ever been nervous on a stage.
Because you're on Leno?
Well, it wasn't because I was on Leno. It's because when they pull the curtain up, they have a big TV monitor right there. So you're looking at yourself on television.
Oh, that's uncomfortable.
So the first thought in my head is like, wow, there's a lot of people looking at this right here that I'm looking at. And, you know, then I create this loop of that going on. I'm like,
of course.
And then I'm like, oh, shit, I got to breathe. Okay, now I got to play. You know, so I'm just glad I didn't have to start the song. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I had a second to kind of like process all this information. I was like, okay, we're good. All right, here we go. I was actually playing upright with her as well.
That's cool, man. So how long did that? Was that like a tour, or was that like?
Yeah, we did like a 2-week tour. You know, kind of just different places. We went to New York, and everything was in the U.S. But yeah, it was fantastic. She's great. You know, cool hang, and yeah, every gig was really pleasant. You know,
very cool, man. Interesting.
All good thing.
What are you working on now that you're most excited about?
Right now, you know, whenever Dave Cobb has a recording session come through, we do that. I mean, just the past. You're
like his A-list bass player?
I'm his first call guy, yeah. And you know, we've done several records thus far this year. We've started with Ashley Monroe, did her new record, and right before that was this great group called the Lone Bellow. It's 3 singers, and they destroy it. They're great, and got to do that right at the end of last year. We've also done Brent Cobb's second album. We finished up Anderson East's second album. Gosh, we did Shooter Jennings. Another cool one that we did too was the Oak Ridge Boys. We did a gospel record, and so it was like just all old school, like Jerry Lee Lewis gospel stuff.
So how do you like? I mean, it's not really your thing, like that you like to listen to. How do you go in there and enjoy yourself? Well,
the funny thing about it, when I'm playing it, I'm enjoying it if it's good, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all music, you know, and if it's good music, I'm enjoying it. You know what I mean? If it was like doing the same thing with somebody that just couldn't pull it together and sing well, it would be a whole nother story. But, you know, it's the Oak Ridge Boys. So you're like, these guys are they're ridiculous, you know, and the history there is just amazing, you know. So that was one of those bucket list sessions, you know. And you know, as far as the style goes, like, you know, recording it and maybe playing one gig on it, it's all good, you know. Could I tour on it? I don't know, you know. It's like it's just one of those things, because I you know, personally for myself, I'm either like the funk R&B or jazz world guy, you know, as far as like what makes me feel good playing a lot of. But then again too, I kind of get bored doing one thing, you know. It's like I've been doing a salsa gig every Monday night here in town, and I mean, it's legit. There's 3 Cubans, a Venezuelan, and a guy from Dominican, and me,
and a guy from Columbus, Indiana,
you know. And it's just like, it's all good, you know. It's like I don't play one all night long, you know. It's like, and because I used to do some of that in Los Angeles, and I kind of just brushed it off, and as in like I hadn't done it in a while, so I had to brush the dust off and get those chops back. But you know, now we're a few months into it, and it's a lot of fun.
I think it's different playing something too than listening to it. I think you don't. Oh, yeah, because when you're playing, you get you know, you get to create your music.
That's it.
And it's something you're going to make something you enjoy. You're not going to create something that you don't enjoy. But whereas if you're listening to something, because I don't like listening to country, would I play it? Sure.
Yeah.
If I could.
Especially, you know, especially in the studio. That's, you know, I love working in the studio so much, because everything you're doing is being creative. You know, it's like we'll listen to things for references to get ideas off of course, but, you know, nothing's original, but really, you know, so everything's just kind of a stolen idea. but it's just about how you implement it, how you perform it, and how you think about things. So it's just it's a really cool process. And we've actually picked up doing a TV show on TBS called Damnation.
Oh, that's cool.
We're doing spots for it now. So
very cool.
That's a cool gig too. It's like you got this much time and this is what the vibe is, and let's create something to that vibe. So
is it licensing? It's sync licensing is what you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And that's good because you get residuals on that every time they play it.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
That's the idea.
Do you know a guy out in LA named Nomad? He goes by Nomad, Michael Ripoll.
No.
Okay.
I know a guy named Nomad here.
Oh, that's funny. There's two guys named Nomad? Holy shit. That's weird. That is weird. So you're originally from Columbus, Indiana. What was growing up like up there?
It was nice, quiet town. Great place to grow up. Woods everywhere, so there was always something to do. Unfortunately, all the kids in my neighborhood were my brother's age, which is 10 years older. So I kind of missed out on all the troublemaking and everything. So I was kind of a boring, good kid.
Lenny, I'm sure your parents were very thankful.
I guess so.
Trust me.
It's like my brother got into enough trouble, I guess, from the both of us.
Yeah.
Growing up there, it was great. I kind of enjoyed it, and I'm glad I had that upbringing. Just a kind of quiet Midwestern rural living, and the high school system was fantastic. I got to say.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and even in middle school, that's where middle school is when I started playing cello. That's where I learned to read bass clef, because I started playing electric bass when I was 11.
How did you get into playing music? Any of your parents musicians, or?
It's my brother. Well, my mom's side of the family is very musical, but my brother was a guitar player.
Okay.
And like I said, he's 10 years older than me, so highly influential. And the first thing he threw at me was a drum kit, in like the second grade, and so I learned Purple Rain and on the drums. And then by the time that the year that it took me to get that together, my parents were kind of sick of the drums, so it kind of just ended up in the garage somewhere. So it didn't really stick, and plus, I just didn't like the sound of just hitting something and playing time like that. I didn't gravitate to that. But at one point, my brother looks at me and goes, "Hey, we're in the car driving to one of his band rehearsals," and he's like, "Why don't you play bass?" I was like, "Okay, what's that do?" And he turns the bass down on the car radio, and everything thins out, gets real trebly, and he's like, "Here's what the bass does," and he brings pulls the knob back up, and it just becomes this big, lush, full sound. And I'm like, "Oh wow, the bass is important."
Now, what a smart way to do that, because I'm thinking if it was me, I probably would have said, "Here's what it does," and turned the bass up. But what a tremendous difference it was in more memorable and meaningful turning the bass down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really clever.
You hear what it's like without it.
Yeah.
First. It's like, oh, well, shit, that sounds terrible.
That's very cool. So after that?
Yeah, we convinced my parents to get me a bass, and went out and got one, and, just started working on songs. I took lessons to learn. My first record was Look What the Cat Dragged In by Poison.
Good old Poison.
So, I can contribute them to all of my musical endeavors.
That's funny.
So after I learned that record, taking lessons, I'm like, well, I guess I could do this at home. So I just kind of started learning songs by ear, and I worked up like 100 songs at one point.
Wow, that's
so,
pretty full discography.
So by the time I was 12, I'd done my first gig with my brother and his band, which was like the coolest freaking thing ever.
Because they're adults, basically.
Yeah, they're 22 years old. And it's like, we're doing like this Hope Heritage Day, which is kind of like in October, and we played in a gazebo, and you couldn't see me because the gazebo railing was as tall as me.
That's funny, man.
But I'll never forget it. It's just one of those life experiences that it was life changing for me, because it was kind of the nail in the coffin of, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
It made you feel so good being up there.
Absolutely. It's just like, that night was perfect. So we're just doing 80s hair metal covers, and it was like the funnest thing ever.
Look with the cat dragged in. I have that album. It's funny enough. So is your brother a musician too?
He's a guitar player.
In Nashville or up in Indiana?
Up in Indiana, yeah. He has a band that he plays with, and he's got his own electrical company. He never pursued it professionally. Excuse me, but he still plays. He's great. He's a fantastic singer as well, which is something that I never really got the ownership of singing wise. But yeah, playing, he definitely would just be like, here, check this out. Here, check this out. And he even hit me to Musicians Institute, because they kind of always had a brochure laying around, their band rehearsal space. And so kind of by 12 years old, I was like, well, that's where I'm going to go. And like, I was hell bent at that age that I'm going to Los Angeles. So as soon as I turned 18 and graduated high school, that's exactly what I did.
That's not an inexpensive education either.
Well, when I went, it was a lot cheaper than it is now. Okay. Yeah, the prices have gone up exponentially since I graduated. So, and it just so happened to work out. We had a piece of land that my dad, graciously sold and got me through school without any debt.
That was nice. That's great.
Like, good grief, it's like, I'm so very fortunate.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, so I'm very aware of my blessings. So it's something that I'm always like, well, if I can give that back, I will.
That's great. That's real nice.
But yeah, I mean, growing up there, it was just it was a great place to learn, because there wasn't a lot going on in my neighborhood. Because I lived far enough out of town where I couldn't really just have my parents drive me to go see friends. So when I was at 11, 12 years old, all I did was play the bass, and that kind of continued on all the way through high school even. So, and then, like I said, the high school band program was outrageous. We had a marching band, jazz band, symphonic band, concert band. I mean,
in this rural town in Indiana.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
The town's big enough. We had two high schools, Columbus North, which is where I went, and Columbus East, which was the other one. And unfortunately, that was a school that didn't have the budgeting that ours did.
What is that near? Like, what would be the closest town to Columbus?
Well, it seems like everybody knows Bloomington, where IU is. Yeah. So Columbus is the city where at the freeway where you turn off to go to Bloomington.
Okay. Basically. So how many? So it's not really a suburb of Bloomington. It's just another town.
No, it's right in the middle of Indianapolis and Louisville.
Okay.
So it's kind of right in the middle there, southern Indiana. But yeah, I mean, it's funny enough, it's been on the cover of National Geographic for its architecture.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
for Columbus, that's
pretty wild.
What kind of work did your parents do?
My dad he was a factory worker ever since I knew. I think he had worked at like a donut shop before that. But yeah, he was just always a machinist, pressing parts for engine parts and filters. And
so like very traditional, like Midwestern kind of job, pretty much.
Yeah. Really. And then he would come home and work until it was too dark to work. Probably one of the hardest, because my dad's older. He was 47 when I was born.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And so he comes from that generation at the end of the Depression where you work for everything you own.
Yeah.
So that he's...
Has that changed?
What's that?
Has that changed? Because I haven't gotten the memo.
Well, man, it's like we're kind of bred from that generation, though, of that hardworking mentality where, I feel like that's changing a bit in the younger,
Man, that was the mildest. That was a very politically correct way of saying that. You get the award. That was the most subtle.
Subtle jab at
the younger generation. Yeah.
Well, it's just, yeah. I mean, because I don't feel like I work nearly as hard as what my dad did. I don't think I could. I'm a hard worker, but it's like that guy he just didn't stop. He retired and went back to work. You know what I mean? It's like he just couldn't sit around, and he built his own house from the ground up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just my brother's the same way too. He's built 2 houses from the ground up.
Holy smokes, that's phenomenal.
I'm like, what's wrong with you guys?
Well, you got to know. You have to really know what you're doing there, man. You just can't casually, put your house together.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's crazy because I helped with my brother's house. I helped build that from the ground up, and I would pop my thumb open every other day, or do something stupid. But it's like, yeah, I mean, the fact that he knows that this part needs to go here now, and then you got to put these boards together, and I'm just like, just point and I'll nail.
Yeah. No, it's a skill set. It's like being a doctor or being a bass player. It's a skill set, man. You got to know what you're doing.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, that's really cool.
So yeah, work ethic. I've learned a lot just from watching him, and my mom, she worked in the school cafeteria system her whole life, and she was a school cafeteria lunch lady.
Are your parents still around?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Question for you: if you could go back and give advice to your younger self regarding anything, professional, personal, what advice do you think you'd give yourself?
Buy stock in Apple.
Very good advice. Yeah. Or Amazon or
any of those, Google, whatever.
Yeah.
But it would go down that road though of finances, excuse me, of being just having more awareness of it, because my dad, being from that era, was just cash is king. You always have cash, no matter what. If you can't pay for it in cash, then you can't buy it. You know what I mean? And we just live in a different world now. It's just, that's just not realistic. His first house he built was $10,000, so it's like,
you can't buy a house cash. I mean, not many people could buy a house cash.
No. So, it's just those little subtle things of that, and just maybe understanding the market and the stock market, which, I'm learning in now, but it would be great to just kind of have that savviness back then, and I think I would have definitely gotten into more like written material, as far as like educational books, instructional books.
Publish them yourself, you mean? Yeah. Information products.
Yes. I would have definitely said, you know what, I know you hate doing this stuff, but do it. It's just worth it,
But like you got that gig now with the rhythm stuff, and so you could do it now. I mean, there's no like.
For sure. Yeah.
And you're probably better qualified to do it now as from an efficiency standpoint.
Sure. Because I've kind of lived my whole entire life kind of letting the universe take it over. I don't force myself into situations that I don't feel like I should be doing just because, I've been uncomfortable financially in the past because of that. But then I kind of let my career just find its own path, and, doors keep opening, knock on wood. But I just think there's something to that I've always stayed true to what I want to do musically. And because of that, I think I'm happier, because unfortunately there's a lot of people in this business that work nonstop, and they're way beyond me financially because of that. But it's never been about the financial side of things. It's always been like, well, why am I doing this? What's the real purpose behind this? And for me, it's to make great music and to feel good about doing that, and if I'm teaching, it's because I love teaching. It's because I wanted to be doing this, and I see their reaction to what I'm telling them, and that's what I'm getting out of this, but at one point I quit teaching because I wasn't enjoying it, so I'm like, well, I don't want to be bitter, and I don't want to reflect that upon my students, so I'm out. Same with any gig too. It's like, well, I'm not enjoying this, I have to go. It's just one of those things, and I feel good about that.
So that you've kept your, let's say, creative integrity above. You've had creative integrity, and you've lived like that.
For the most part, I mean, there's always going to be situations where it's like, that was a rough.
I got to eat. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, seriously. I mean, I get that. I totally get that.
But for the most part, as far as the big decisions, it's been an amazing journey of this door closes, but this one just opened, and I'll put things out there like, man, I'd love to do some Latin work. And then all of a sudden this salsa gig comes
thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's been kind of weird and surreal that's the flow that has worked for me, but that's just what it's been,
I think you have to really, so we were talking beforehand, I'm more the opposite, and I'm trying to be more trusting of the universe or whatever to just sort of go like that. It's a tough thing.
It is.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do for me anyway. Yeah. Very tough, you know.
Sure. I mean, because I've had situations where if I would have stayed in, it would have just all been fine, you know. But again, it goes back to that: would I still be happy, you know? And I'm not saying that you aren't, you know. That's
yeah. No, you're not.
That's your journey, and, you know. But you know, it's just I know for myself, I personally wouldn't have been had I stayed. You know, so it's one of those things, and I think that's why, you know, we were talking earlier, and you have a diverse amount of things going on, you know, and I think that's a beautiful thing, because I think if you were just stuck doing one singular thing, it would be a different story.
I couldn't do that. I have to have multiple things going. I'd be miserable.
Yeah, exactly, and it's really that concept, you know. It's just. It's, you know, I guess the difference for me, it's just, you know, it's like, well, I'm not doing this gig now. And now I'm trying to get this one going, you know? So, but, it's kind of a hard thing to explain, really, of how I get through life, you know, cause I'm like, I just turned 40 this year, and I'm like, oh wow, man, I'm still doing this. That's fantastic. And every year keeps getting a little better, you know, and that's really kind of what I gauge it off of. It's like, well, if I'm still happy doing this, and if things keep getting better, then I must be doing something okay.
You must be following. Yeah. It's a very because you really have to. It's kind of like free falling, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
it's a free fall, and I have issues with that, like, because I've always been, you know, didn't grow up really in a good environment, so I've always been self-reliant, and, like, you know, had a fight. Not physically necessarily, but, you know, everything was a battle. So it's hard for me to just let go and let that trust sort of, I've just never done it. You know, so it's like, here I am, you know, 54, you know, wanting to do this. And it's like, and it's, you know, everything's like, at least with this particular thing, everything's really, you know, doing great. So, you know, it's just a new thing for me. It's funny, but I give you credit for doing that, man. It's because it is very, free fall for me. That's how it feels for me anyway. That's what it feels like, a free fall. Now for you, it may just feel comfortable.
Oh no.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Okay.
I'm generally in some state of discomfort.
Yeah. Okay.
But, right. You know, it's that fear factor though. Of when this thing does end, now what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not one to just start like knocking on doors. I'll if I'm on the road or something, I'll let people know that I'm back in town to do stuff. And, you know, just because, I got to work, and, you know,
right.
But, you know, like, you know, when the Rich Robinson gig ends, it's like, okay, what's happening? You know, like, who's out there? And then I'd start doing some stuff with this country band, and then that ended, and I'm like, okay. And then the Robben Ford thing just kind of happened, and it's like, now that's over. Now I'm not over, but, you know, that's in a different place right now. Yeah. And now the session work is like slammed right now.
Which
so it's
great.
Like, okay, cool. You know, like, we're still good. You know what I mean? So but, you know, I guess what I'm doing differently this time though is, like we were discussing earlier, is the clinic thing.
You're putting together a plan B.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, because I do want to get more proactive on my own situation and, you know, career. And, you know, what it comes down to really is I love teaching, and I always have. And that's something that I always reflect on. And I've actually been teaching a couple days a week here at like a satellite school, which has been great because it's not really bass player oriented. It's just music industry oriented.
Yeah.
So I get to talk about things that I don't normally talk about, you know, which is just really been cool, you know, whether it's been production tips or song arranging or.
It's got to be so much more, not interesting, but like easier to get excited about when you have all this new stuff to cover instead of, you know, rehashing the same thing. It's like, you know, I'd run hot seat seminars sometimes where it would be like not necessarily anything structured, but this guy'd get up and tell me what's going on in his business, and I could tell him the marketing things to fix it. And the next guy it's a lot more interesting than like, you know, here's how you write ad copy for this, or here's what, you know, I like that kind of stuff anyway. It's more diverse, more, you know, changing and stuff. Yeah.
That's it. Because, you know, at the end of the day too, I'd love to get into more production work. You know, bass playing is always going to be there and part of it, but I love sitting behind the desk and just kind of hearing the big picture and help people guide that vision of what they want their song to be. And
well, that sounds like a good spot then when you're teaching, because you could have prospective students that are looking, that they would then come to you for that based on what you educated them.
Absolutely.
That's great, man.
And it's another one of those things where I was like, man, the teaching gig would be cool. And then it just came up, and I'm like, oh, I love this connection I have.
Yeah, man. That's good. I hope it keeps going for you, man. That's excellent.
Got the bat phone to the universe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's cool, and I've been doing it. It started one day, and then they're like, "Hey, can you come back 2 days next week?" And this is the third week now, actually. And I'm back next week, and I'm like, "Wow, okay, cool. Let's just keep this rolling." So
they may have you design some program for them or something, because you have such good teaching experience.
That could be a possibility as well. So.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like out loud in the back of my head. The other difference was I had 3 kids and a wife too. That's a little.
Yeah, man.
A little wrinkle there that I couldn't have been as free, as free form as you.
That's huge.
That's huge. That's and you know what? I love my kids, but now that they're almost all gone, the freedom I feel, I can't explain it. I'm not, I'm always there for them if they need anything, emotionally, and if they need to borrow money once in a while, they're all pretty good with paying it back. So I'm there for that. But it's really, it's very liberating. Just to not to love them different. I don't have that responsibility. They're on their own. Now I'm concerned about them, but they're fine. And man, it is really, I never expected. It's like so liberating.
Absolutely.
Oh man. And the other thing is, I'm glad my wife and I have a good connection, because I was sitting around a couple of years ago when the kids first started leaving, and I was like, because we're in our early 50s and everybody's like getting divorced, and I'm like, man, I can see why people get divorced. Yeah. It's just me and you here, man. There's no, we're sitting here having coffee out back on a Sunday, and I'm like, thank God we like each other, because I would be freaking miserable right now if we didn't, because I have nothing to occupy my time. No, and it was like, I was very grateful. It was like, man, I was really very great. Yeah.
18 year smoke screen there.
Yeah. Well, it's more. It's 18 for, it's like
3 kids.
Yeah. I had 3. So it's like, 22, 23 years, 25, something like that. And the big one and the little one, 10 years apart. So I don't know how many years it is, but, I was like, thank goodness we like each other, man. This is like fun, but it would be misery if it, it's like, whoa, we got out lucky.
Yeah, well, I'm married in January. So,
You're getting married in January?
Yeah.
Oh man, congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, she's great, and she's a nurse, and so it's just
Hey, congratulations! I'm really happy for you, man. That's good.
Thanks. So we'll see if I stick to this universal thing,
Yeah, well, it's different when you have kids. Well, plus Ann was she was stay-at-home mom for a long time, but she ran the back. She always worked. She ran the back end of my businesses, but the burden of everything was on me for a really long time, and then I was totally cool with that. I was happy. I felt not sense of pride, but I took that responsibility very seriously, I guess is
big time.
what it was. Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Congratulations. So you got over the heartbreak or the breakup from LA.
Oh yeah.
Everything worked out.
It was all good, and that was just kind of more of a parting of ways, just lifestyle changes. And it was like, well, you're going down this path, I'm going down this way, so it wasn't like a big ugly thing. So
is this your first marriage?
No, second, actually. It's both of our second marriages.
Okay. So you had some experience in it before.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck, man. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, thanks.
So that might be the answer to my next question, which was, tell me something about yourself people will either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd. Well, it's not odd, but
Yeah. But I guess that's the best news I got is getting married in January. So
what's your non-musical superpower, Brian?
My non-musical superpower?
Yeah.
Like a real one, or
you're a really easy guy to get along with. Maybe that's your superpower.
I guess. I guess communication.
You're good at communications.
Yeah, try to be anyway. Sometimes I try to joke a lot, but maybe too much in the studio and stuff. But it's good to keep things light. It's like if we're not laughing in the session, that means we're having a bad day.
Yeah.
But no, it's all good. But yeah, I think just the gift to communicate to people, good or bad, if somebody's coming at you angrily with something and being able to diffuse it with words, I think is way more important than getting in somebody's face and, getting in a fight. I haven't been in a fight since I was in the 6th grade, and that was over a kickball game, So it's like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. It's funny, as I've gotten older, the best way that I deal with that now is by just not reacting. And and I did it selfishly because I was like, man, I used to get really pissed off easy if somebody was coming at me, or now I just do nothing. And I'm like, wow, that's so much easier. It's not my shit if someone else is pissed off anyway. Why would I jump on that?
Yeah, totally.
Hey, man.
Although my biggest problem is when I'm driving though,
you got road rage?
I turn into a beast.
Do you really?
I don't act on it, but man, if anybody could hear me.
That's funny, man.
It's Nashville driving, man. It's truly one of the worst.
It's bad.
Of my life.
It's like Orlando up there. It's really
I've
bad.
had more near accidents here than I ever did in Los Angeles, ever.
Wow. I'm actually kind of concerned about that up there. Not concerned, but it's not a lot of traffic here, and I'm driving up there, so it's going to be weird.
Oh yeah, it's not great.
And I have a truck, an F-150, so we'll see how it goes. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
Yeah, I do, but I never get to do them.
What are they?
I really love taking pictures, photography.
Oh yeah, I love taking pictures.
But it's just, man, I just don't do it. I pretty much, music's my hobby, and it just continues to be, because I'll still practice every day. And
oh, you do?
On something, yeah, and mostly upright or cello. If I do, just because the classical element, which I never get to play, but it's the best thing to practice for me. So
that's great, man.
Yeah.
3 more questions. Favorite place you've traveled? I know you've been all over, and you've been to some really cool places.
I mean, it's a toss up. For food, without a doubt, Italy. I mean, it's the best in the world for me. As far as nature goes, northern Norway is the most spectacular place I've ever been.
Is that where the northern lights?
Northern lights are the fjords that you got to drive through, and the water is it's glass. I mean, it's just a mirror. And it's just the most pristine land I've ever seen. It's just immaculate, But, and I also really love like Japan, because it's just another planet.
In what way?
It's just so different than what we do here, like everybody's walking, you feel claustrophobic outside, like crossing.
It's that crowded.
Yeah, you get on the train at the wrong time, and there are literally people there to jam people into the train. It's just nuts.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I just think it's a fascinating culture, and I love the respect aspect of their culture, and they're incredibly business savvy. But when they go to let loose, they let loose like it's their business.
Yeah.
So it's
I've read that.
You get this full crazy spectrum of culture that you don't expect. But when I get days off, I try to hang out with friends and go do what they do, and not so much sightsee, So I try to take in more culture than I can just touristy stuff. So that's one of my favorite things about traveling anywhere. It's just learning about what people are really like.
What the locals do, kind of. Yeah, I like doing that myself. It's funny you mentioned about Japan. I saw something I don't know, last 2 weeks, there was something, I don't even know where, Facebook or something, and it was a site dedicated, and it had all these pictures, and it's like, no, these are not homeless men, these are Japanese businessmen sleeping all they party really hard there, like you said. They're literally hammered, passed out on the street.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are wearing $1,200 suits,
right?
Alleys. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and well, the cool thing about it is, if there's a cool thing, there's no worry about they're going to get jacked and rolled.
Yeah,
no one's going to roll them for their wallet in the middle of the night.
Yeah, nobody locks their bicycles there. Yeah. It's just you just park your bike and it'll be there tomorrow.
That's almost unfathomable.
It really is. And, I don't know how many, 14 million people in Tokyo.
Is that what it is? Wow.
Something like that. It's some crazy number, but yeah, it's just there's no crime hardly. It's an amazing thing.
It's a nice culture, man.
Sure is.
Toughest decision you ever had to make or hardest thing you ever had to do? Besides this call.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess, moving to Nashville was a big life change for me.
Sure.
Because I pretty much changed my lifestyle as well, and kind of changed a lot, just, yeah.
And it worked out great.
It did. It's been fantastic, so, and I'm glad I did that, so.
You're the second person like today that told me that was the toughest decision and everything worked out great. Then the first was David Henriksen from Sweden.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I truly thought I was going to hate it here, which the only thing I do hate and I truly hate about Nashville is the summers. The humidity is like nothing I've ever felt.
Isn't it like that up in the Midwest?
Not like here.
Not like here.
This is a special kind of.
Oh, I know. I'm in Florida. Believe me.
You're in Florida, so you know all about it. I just I can't deal it. California's just got a dry heat. It's a desert. So I'm way more into that.
Sure. No, I've been out west in the summer. It's totally different, man. Totally different.
For sure.
Last question, man. What's the most important lesson your business has taught you? That really nothing is in concrete. Nothing's going to last forever in this business. And, not to make it be a negative thing, but there's really no guarantees. And I think that's why you got to stay on top of things to make sure that you're going to be okay if something shifts. For example, like the Robben Ford gig, I kind of saw that it was kind of coming to an end. But it wasn't like a definitive, like, okay, guys, we're done. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was like, I keep saying like too much. That's all right. It took me 60 episodes to stop saying every other sentence. So you get a pass.
Okay, good. It drives me crazy when I do that. But yeah, I just that there's no guarantees that any gig is going to last. And that's proven itself time and time again. This organ player that I work with, Ricky Peterson, said it best. All of our resumes are gigs that we're basically fired from. That we've done, not fired per se.
It just ended.
It just ended. It's over. It's just like this has just come to an abrupt end. So it's not like we've just decided, okay, I'm done with this gig. Now I'm going to go do this gig. Now I'm going to do this gig. It's like, okay, well, this gig ended, so now I have to go find this gig, and now I got to go find this gig. So that's the biggest thing, is just the uncertainty of, well, okay, well, when this ends, whenever that is, because there's not a set time that this gig is supposed to last or not. It's like, well, what do I have stirring in the pot, basically? Like, what's warming up right now? So that's why it's always good to keep feelers out and to keep people knowing that you're around and available and into doing something, and side projects, or whether they end up being something or not. It's just good to have things going on. Yeah,
for sure, man.
So,
well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. You're awesome. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really glad we got to talk, man. And you're a super cool guy. And thank you for everything. Anything like, where can people send you money or anything?
Well, I have a website. It's brianallenonbass.com. It's a Wix site, so you'll need Flash, unfortunately. But I don't know HTML, so I had to do the drag and drop.
There you go, man.
And until I get all famous and I can hire somebody to do my website, which I probably should have done anyway. But anyway, and then like I said, we're working on this clinic thing. We're going to do it's called Rhythm Section Workshop, and my partner in this is Wes Little. He was the drummer with Robben for the past 4 years as well. And we'll be out doing clinic tours. We have a thing coming up in April, which I'll be putting all this on my website.
Where's that thing in April?
It'll be up in Ohio. oh gosh, I can't think of the details right now. It's been so long since we booked it, but I should have had that ready. But yeah, well, it's kind of like a rhythm section kind of weekend clinic thing, so it should be cool.
And that's not just for bass players; it's for guitarists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yep. So, and then like I said, our seminars will be for any instrument as well.
So go to Brian Allen Music, Brian Brian Allen ALLEN music.com and check it out.
Brian Allen on bass.
I'm sorry. I wrote that down. You know what I wrote down? Brian Allen on Wix. And I crossed it out right after. I was like, that's not right. Brian Allen on bass.com. God.
There you go.
Wash my mouth out. BrianAllenOnBass.com. And on that note, man, thank you very much. I appreciate everything, man. I really mean
thank you.
It's been a real fun conversation. So,
absolutely. Hit me up when you come to Nashville.
I am, man. I am. I'll talk to you about that afterwards. Everybody, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know Brian Allen as much as I did. Thanks again to Brian for spending all that time with us. I definitely appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified about future podcast episodes, along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Now, be nice. Go play your guitar and have some fun, most importantly. Till next time, peace and love, and I am out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.